Good afternoon, everyone. We are the Group 1, and we are the reporters for today's topic, Module 2 ICT Policies and Issues. Implications to Teaching and Learning include Lesson 1 and Lesson 2. So now may I call on the first member to report, Miss Marjorie Dimicilio.
Good day, everyone. Prior to the discussion, these are the expected learning objectives of this topic. First, to know about ICT policies. Second, to apply the safety rules when using ICT. Third, to appreciate the implications of ICT to teaching and learning. Lastly, to adapt the measures that can help to protect individual in the online world. To move forward, we found a lacking of difficult words and terms in our given topic. First, we have adequate, enough or satisfactory in quality or quantity, enough to be used and accepted. Example, first, 1 in 4 people worldwide are without adequate homes. Second, the school be adequate to meet the nutritional needs of growing children. Second term is anti-glare. Prevent reflection of the screen or eliminate the reflection of strong and dazzling light. Example, the glass lenses adjust to light conditions and are treated with an anti-glare coating. Second example, visual problems were less in persons using anti-glare screen and those with adequate lighting in the room. Third term is authentication, proving something to be true or valid. Also, a process of determining whether someone or something is in fact. Example, first, Jane wanted tactical call signs, authentication codes, and radio frequencies. Second example, users can update applications securely with authentication enabled through digital signatures. Fourth term is censorship, is also the suppression of speech, public communication, or other information. This can be done on the basis that such material is considered objectionable, harmful, sensitive, or inconvenient. Censorship can be conducted by governments, private institutions, and other controlling bodies. Example, first, the municipal authority claimed the right to exercise a censorship over the citizens' private life. Second, political censorship has been tightened under the new regime. Fifth term is data surveillance, the practice of monitoring digital data relating to personal details or online activities. Examples, mass data surveillance threatens us with more than embarrassment and invasions of privacy. Sixth term is implications, the conclusion that can be drawn from something although it is not explicitly stated. Examples are first, Lance smiled but the implication was that he didn't believe me. Second example, Anna stated to defend herself but her implication was insulting. Seventh term is roadmap. It is a strategic plan that defines a goal or desired outcome and includes the major steps or milestones needed to reach it. Example, strategic planning and consulting are the strategy roadmap to manage business very effectively. Second example, having a plan gives you a roadmap to follow and almost guarantee success. Eighth term is shred, to cut paper or something into fine particles. Examples, first, may shred the lettuce leaves finely. Second example, the carrots and cabbage should be well shredded before being added to the salad. Ninth term is surveillance, is the careful watching of someone, especially by an organization such as the police or the army. Examples, first, the police have kept the nightclub under surveillance because of suspected illegal drug activity. Second example, Moorebank is now installing surveillance cameras. Tenth term is trailing, to hang down so as to drag along or sweep the ground. Examples. First, Kevin said goodbye to Samantha and walked off trailing behind Martin. Second example, Ivy metered her way through the crowd with her companion trailing along at the back of her. To move forward, let me share with you the policies and issues on internet and implications to teaching and learning. Why do we need to study policies and issues on internet and implications to teaching and learning? So here's the further explanation. Globalization is reality and ICT has become a fundamental part of the process. A network society is one in which the entire planet is organized around telecommunication network of computers. The powerful use of network has broken boundaries, provided opportunities for inclusion and collaboration. However, there will also be a struggle for those who do not have access or those who are excluded, marginalized, and powerless. Thus, a need to establish policies in the use of ICT is imperative. ICT policy. According to Oxford English Dictionary, has defined policy as a course of action adopted and pursued by a government, party, ruler, and statesman. It is any course of action adopted as expedient or advantageous. Its operational definition of policy is a plan of action to guide decisions and outcomes. Thus, ICT policies are needed to put a roadmap or course of actions to be pursued and adopt various government, organizations, entities involving issues in ICT. These include principles and guidelines in the ICT which cover three main areas: telecommunication, broadcasting, and internet. What's the purpose of ICT policy? First is to inform users and managers of their responsibilities when utilizing information assets, as well as for protecting technology and information assets. Second, to specify the mechanisms through which these requirements must be met. Third, to provide the baseline from which to acquire, configure, and audit computer systems and networks in compliance with the policy. Next, to minimize disruption and misuse of the ICT infrastructure. Lastly, to ensure that the resources are used for purpose appropriate to the business and to define what users may or may not do on the various components of the system infrastructure. The new ICT technologies, more recent technological innovations, increase the reach and speed of communications, which can group into three categories. First, information technology is the study, design, development, implementation, support, or management of computer-based information systems, particularly software, applications, and computer hardware. Information technology workers help ensure that computers work well for people. This includes the use of computers, which has become indispensable in modern societies to proceed data and save time and effort. What are needed will be computer hardware and peripherals, software for the user, computer literacy. Second, telecommunication technologies. Refers to distance communications, is a general term encompasses communications technology that utilizes the transmission of data over network. It includes communication devices, networks, and associated systems and services. The telecommunication industry is one of the largest and most important industries in the world, employing millions of people worldwide because through these means continues to increase with technological advances. This also includes telephone and the broadcasting of radio and television, often through satellites. Third is networking technologies. This involves the use of data systems to manage and deliver digital resources over a computer network. A variety of industries use computer hardware and systems software that maintains a network, creating a need for specialists to manage them. The best known of networking technologies is the Internet, but has extended to mobile phones, Voice over Internet Protocol or the VoIP, satellite communications, and other forms of communications are still in their infancy. The VoIP or the Voice over Internet Protocol is a technology that allows us to make voice calls using a broadband internet connection instead of a regular phone line. Some VoIP services may only allow us to call other people using the same service, but others may allow us to call anyone who has telephone number, including local, long-distance, mobile, and international numbers. Also, while some VoIP services only work over our computer, which may allow us to use a traditional phone connected to a VoIP adapter. Voice over Internet Protocol services convert our voice into a digital signal that travels over the Internet. If we're calling a regular phone number, the signal is converted to a regular telephone signal before it reaches the destination. In addition, wireless hotspots in locations such as airports, parks, and cafes allow us to connect to the international may enable us to use Voice over Internet Protocol service wirelessly. To move forward, I give you to Miss Relacion.
So thank you, Miss Marjorie Dimisilio. Next is the ICT roadmap. The ICT roadmap is mandated by Republic Act 10844 to be the primary policy, planning, coordinating, implementing, and administrative entity of the executive branch of the government that will plan, develop, and promote the National ICT Development Agenda. Next is ICT for Education is a program under the ICT. It is a program under the ICT that supports all the efforts of the education sector in incorporating the use of ICT as well as in determining and gaining the access to the infrastructure which are necessary to use and deploy learning technologies at all levels of education. Next, we have the ICT policy programs. It includes ICT in Education Master Plan for all levels, including a national roadmap for faculty development in ICT in education. Next, we have Content and Application Development. Content and Application Development through the Open Content in Education initiative, which converts DepEd materials into interactive multimedia content, develop applications used in schools and conduct students and teachers competitions to promote the development of education-related web content. Next, we have FedNet. FedNet is a walled garden that hosts educational learning and teaching materials and application for use of students, teachers, and parents. Next, we have established community e-learning centers. It is called Escuela for out-of-school youth, providing them the ICT-enhanced alternative education opportunities. Next, Equality Program for Tertiary Education. Then, Digital Media Arts Program. This Digital Media Arts Program builds digital skills for government using open source technology. Particular beneficiary agency includes the Philippine Information Agency and the other government media organization, the Cultural Center of the Philippines, National Commission for Culture and Arts, and other government art agencies, state universities and colleges, and also other local government units. Next, we have ICT Skills Strategic Plan. This plan develops an interagency approach to identifying strategic and policy and program recommendations to address ICT skills demand and supply. Here, we also have some issues in ICT and Internet policy and regulation. The first is global issue. Global issue is defined as any issue that has a negative impact on the global community and the environment, potentially in a catastrophic fashion, such as environmental issues, political crisis, health crisis, social difficulties, and economic crisis. Global concerns necessitate international collaboration. Next in the ICT issue is freedom of expression and censorship. Freedom of expression and censorship are given to the right to free expression under international human rights and conventions. However, with the change from letter writing, newspaper, and public gatherings to electronic communications and online networking, there are need to investigate on how these new tools alter our notion of freedom of speech and censorship. According to the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights, everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion, as well as freedom of opinion and expression. However, there are behaviors on the internet that contradict these laws. Up next is privacy and security. Most commercial websites contain a privacy statement. When you use a website and click I agree, you are essentially handing up private information to any entity that may have access to it. Next is surveillance. Surveillance is the electronic communication that aided the advancement of indirect surveillance. There is no direct contact between the agent and the subject of surveillance, but the evidence of activity may be traced. Next, we have data valence and data retention. Data collection is the use of personal information to monitor a person's action, whereas data retention is the preservation and the use of information from a communication system. Next, we have e-pollutants and e-waste. E-pollutants and e-waste, the accumulating this is the result of fast equipment turnover owing to rapid software innovation. Waste materials may be eliminated by crushing. Poisonous material produced by various machinery requires careful treatment. E-pollutants and e-waste. It is rising both developed and developing countries. A particular bleak situation is that a substantial amount of electronic garbage has been exported from industrial countries to poor countries through less ecologically friendly methods. Last, we have skill gap. Skill gap identifies a fundamental mismatch between the talents that companies want for their workers and the skill that job seekers have. This mismatch makes it difficult for both people and organizations to recruit adequately skilled staff. Employers' leadership is critical in correcting this misalignment. Next, we have ICT implications for teachers and teaching. The first one is guide the teachers in teaching ICT. Next, technology should never replace any human teacher. Next, observe caution to protect individual policy. Next, issues are part of teaching content. Followed, teachers' human touch are vital component in teaching. And the last one is observe the rules and regulation in using technology. If we have ICT implications for teachers and teaching, we also have implications for learners and learning. The first one is makes learning more engaging and collaborative. Long-lasting knowledge is acquired. Next is create increased students' motivation. Next, increase social interaction. Another implication, enhance student learning, and the last implication for learners and learning is enhance student engagement.
First, we have trailing cables. So computer equipment is often connected to lots of cables that supplies its power, network, and etc. When we talk about trailing cables, these are cables lying and scattering on the floor. So why we consider this an issue? Because these cables can cause accident in a way that people might trip over them. So the solution for these trailing cables is to place them inside cable ducts or under the carpet or flooring. So second issue is split drink or food and electrical equipment. If any liquids are split on electrical equipment such as a computer, it can result in damage to the equipment or an electric shock to the user. So electric shock is due to the electrical energy that flows through a portion of the body and it may result in devastating damage or death. So to avoid this issue is simply to keep drinks and food away from computers. Third issue is the overloaded power sockets. Exceeding the rated load for a circuit wiring causes the circuit breaker to trip, shutting off the power to the entire circuit. If there were no breaker in the circuit, an overload would cause the circuit wiring to overheat, which would melt the wire insulation and lead to a fire. In line with these overloaded power sockets is the octopus wiring. So octopus wiring is basically jam-packing an electrical outlet with lots of extensions and junctions. And this is not advisable because it may cause for your fuse to blow up and your wire will burst into flames. So to avoid these, never plug too many cables into one socket and never do the octopus wiring.
Fourth issue is the heavy object falling. Many items of computer equipment are very heavy, such as monitors and laser printers. If these heavy items will fall on people, it can cause serious injury. So to avoid this to happen, make sure that equipment are placed on strong shelves or table. This time, I will discuss the common issues in ICT in line with its software. So we have hacking. The word hacking has several meanings, but in ICT, it is normally taken to mean breaking into a computer system. So why do hackers hack? Maybe they break into a system just out of curiosity or for a challenge to test if whether they can get through to a system's defenses. But more likely, they do this to access data because that data has value. So next is malware. Malware is a short term for malicious software. Malware is the name given to any software that could harm a computer system, interfere with the user's data, or make the computer perform actions without the owner's knowledge or permission. Basically, malware is software that you really don't want to have in your computer. Later on with the discussion, you will be given with some tips to avoid these hacking and malware. So let's continue with the general working environment. The workplace can be a dangerous place. The following are the safety precautions which can be taken to avoid the risk of accidents. First, ensure there are no trailing cables or wires across or around the room which people could trip on, so better place them inside cable ducts. Next, electrical sockets should not be overloaded to avoid power shortage and to avoid fires. Third is to ensure that electrical equipment are tested regularly or at least once a year because it is a legal requirement and it is part of the safety system that can demonstrate that the electrical equipment is in good condition and can work well. Fourth, adequate spaces are really needed so that people will be comfortable in working and moving. The environment you are working with drastically impact the way you work. It can also impact the team's culture, productivity, and efficiency.